Hi, so I want to talk about something that I'm going to kind of freeform with the conversation, because most of the time when I do these recordings, and a lot of the recordings that I've done, or several of them, I haven't posted yet, and so but I have posted others on here because it's January 30th, 2025, so it's the very end of January 2025, and most of the videos that I have up where I'm speaking in the videos, not singing, but speaking in the videos, most of those videos I have a pretty clear idea of what I'm talking about in them, and I'll add things, like some of what I talk about ends up changing over the course of the recording or the video or whatever, but I have a general idea of what I'm talking about. This one, I don't have as much of an idea on. Like, I kind of know, like, maybe the first, third of it or first half of it or something like that. I know the starting point, but I don't really know quite where I'm going with it. But I feel like I need to talk about this. So basically, I guess I'll start with saying that most of what I've been thinking about and have been trying to post online in terms of on YouTube with my recordings. I don't really say videos, I guess. Maybe I shouldn't say videos because I don't have videos. They're literally just recordings, little sound clips. But most of what I've been drawn to putting on YouTube lately for the last couple of months, which is when I started posting on YouTube, speaking videos on YouTube, what's about 2 months ago, most of that has been me talking about the heart, and or not most of it, but a lot of it has been me talking about the heart and kind of the disconnection from and suppression of the heart space in the spiritual community, because I'm fairly spiritual, but I'm extremely, I want to emphasize, I'm extremely upset with the spiritual community at the moment, and have been for the last several months, because the spiritual community is, I think, kind of, as harsh as it sounds, I think they're basically putting the heart into a steel cage and putting duct tape on the mouth of the heart and saying, don't you dare say anything not positive. It's just, there's so much just a vicious level of toxic positivity present in the spiritual community right now, and I'm fucking sick of it. Sorry, swearing's necessary sometimes, I think. I am really sick of it. I'm sick of the spiritual community suppressing the heart space. And so that's what I've been thinking a lot about and talking a lot about. And to be fair, I understand, we're all in a crazy world trying to figure out a crazy world. So yes, I understand a lot of that emotional suppression is because spiritual people have been taught by, air quotes, spiritual teachers, that they need to be more positive to get what they want and BS like that, which I do not believe you need to be more positive to get what you want. And I actually talked about this yesterday in a recording or video I finished, finally finished. And so I want to post it pretty soon, but it's a really long video. It's over an hour. It's actually, I think it's close to 2 hours, which is the longest video I have. And I've not posted it online yet. But anyway, sorry, it's a little rocky at the beginning of this recording, I guess, because I'm just kind of going off on a tangent from the start. But anyway, so the point is, I have a lot of thoughts around emotional suppression, specifically within the spiritual community, the emotional suppression and the heart suppression, which emotional suppression is largely heart suppression, because so much of our the emotions we feel are rooted within the heart space, and that's forgotten a lot of the time. Spiritual people think, oh, emotions are in your mind. I'm like, no, they're not only in your mind, they're also in your heart, and you need to honor the pain within your heart, meaning you need to really honor the painful emotions and the, air quotes, negative emotions that you have. And I don't think the spiritual community honors negative emotions nearly enough. And fear is an emotion. I think fear is an emotion, and I think fear needs to be honored. Granted, sometimes fear can be blown out of proportion, and you need to get back to, your heart in that way and understand what fear is present within your heart and what's being blown out of proportion by your mind. But still, fear is present in the heart and should be honored and voiced, and the heart should be allowed to lead in your life. And I think that's where you should be leading from, is your heart space. And to do that, you really have to let your heart talk to you. And what the spiritual community is doing is just silencing the heart, and it enrages me. But anyway, and I'm not all mad at the spiritual community. I mean, there are beautiful aspects within spirituality, but the spiritual community is going down a really kind of scary path, in my opinion, of massive heart suppression, and I'm very upset about it. And so anyway, but that's not the point of this video. It's where my mind has been, and so I feel like it's necessary to talk about this to lead into what I want to talk about next. So because I have all these thoughts around the heart space, and there's so much nuance with emotion, and I don't think it's valued nearly enough, that nuance. And so I've been dealing with grief over a situation in my life that I haven't really been able to talk about. And, well, technically, I guess I've been able to, in the sense that some might say, well, just talk about it. But it's not that simple, because, and I'm trying to be careful in how I explain this because I don't want to give too much detail. But basically, about 3.5, or not really over 3 years ago, it's a little over 3 years ago, I had a situation happen. So it's at the end of January 2025. So this was over 3 years ago. So this was before 2022. This was back in 2021, over 3 years ago. I had a situation again in 2021 happen that derailed my life in a way that I wasn't expecting. And it really, in a lot of ways, came out of nowhere. And it involved someone in my life that I didn't know very well, and still 3+ years later, barely know. But I'm trying to think of how to explain this without giving too much detail away, because I don't feel like it's appropriate right now to give a lot of detail away, but I feel like I need to talk about it. And so I'm kind of trying to balance the two, and it's hard to do that when you have to balance kind of two extremes. One where you're talking about it, but it might be oversharing, and you don't want to overshare, but then you don't want to not talk about it at all. And so trying to find a balancing point there is difficult, I think. And so anyway, but I don't know this person very well, but something happened involving this person, and it felt like to tell this person would be placing way too much of a burden on him. But to not tell this person would be to almost fail my responsibility, or even fail fate. And that's almost as much as I'm comfortable saying about the situation right now. Although I want to say a little more, and I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to say next. But basically, there's this person I barely know who's extremely important to me in a way that he wouldn't understand because he has no idea. But he's a really wonderful and nice person who I think, if he knew what happened, and maybe this is like me, thinking too much of the situation, it easily could be, but I feel like knowing him as much as I know him, even though I don't know him very well, I know him, I guess, decently, just not super well, but I don't know. I've known him for a while. I've known him for a decent amount of time, but I don't know him that well. But I know him okay in a way. I don't know. Anyway, the point is, knowing him to the extent that I know him, and knowing his personality, and that he's a total sweetheart, I think that he would probably, if he knew what happened, he would want me to be able to tell and talk to him about it. But it feels like to talk to him about what happened would be placing this ginormous burden on him. And I fear that I would end up really hurting him by telling him something I really want to tell him. And it's very difficult for me because I don't really know what to do. And so I'm trying to, like, on one hand, you know, part of why I'm talking about it here is that I feel like I'm getting to that place where by talking about it here online, I'm starting to process what happened in a better way rather than having it, you know, stuck inside of my head. Instead, I'm able to voice it, but in a way that's safe, where I'm not burdening him with the situation. But it's helping me, I think, process what happened so I have a better idea of the way forward. So anyway, so I've got this, like, really just it's really difficult. I don't know what to do, but I've got a lot of pain around it. And so now I think I want to talk about the pain of the situation without giving much detail about what happened, and kind of also I want to talk about the way that that emotion and the heart space is just not really understood in this world. And I want to talk about that. The heart space isn't understood well in this world. And I think this situation has helped me realize that, because had this not happened, had I not dealt with this kind of pain that I felt like I couldn't voice, I don't think I would understand the blocks to the heart the way they're present in this world. So anyway, I want to talk about that too. So I kind of lost my train of thought with what I was going to talk about, which happens a lot when I do these videos. One, because these recordings. One, because I have stage fright. Two, because I have brain fog, which has gotten worse due to some health issues for the last, that I've had the last, like, year and a half, 2 years. But also because I guess I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, maybe a lot of one. And so I like to go back after about 10 minutes and to kind of reorient myself on what I'm talking about. After about 10 minutes of recording these videos, I want to listen to it again to make sure that I'm going in the direction I want to, but also because I lose my train of thought. So it helps me kind of anchor back into what I'm talking about so I don't get too confused. So anyway, I did that and I went back and listened, and now I'm kind of like, what was I even trying to say before? Like, I know that I wanted to talk about emotional, basically like the pain that I'm going through, but I don't remember quite where I was going to go with that. So I'm trying to, like, find my footing again. And yeah, so anyway, sorry, you might have to bear with me a minute or something like a minute. So anyway, but I've been dealing with a lot of pain over this situation because, like I said, I haven't really been able to talk about it, and I feel like it's inappropriate to talk about it to the person it involves. But there's this part of me that feels like, you know, we're supposed to be able to talk. Like, we're supposed to be able to voice pain and communicate, but our world is so virtual. Everything's so disconnected. I mean, it's kind of obvious that, you know, maybe the spiritual community, probably it makes sense that the spiritual community is so disconnected from the heart because our society is so disconnected from the heart because we're so disconnected from each other. It sucks, but it's true, I think. And so, like, with virtual existence, and a lot of people feel this, with virtual existence, it's in a lot of ways made the world worse. Are there positive elements to virtual existence? Absolutely. And in an ideal world, I think we'd blend virtual existence, you know, being able to meet each other or meet people from other parts of the world that we otherwise probably wouldn't have been able to meet, or it would have been a lot more difficult to meet. Sorry, my neighbor's dogs are barking. It's probably the mailman. I don't know. But anyway, I'm outside. I'm always outside when I do these recordings because it's how I think. But anyway, so, but yeah, like, virtual existence, like, it allows us to connect with people that we might not have been able to meet in real life otherwise. But it also, and I guess there are other positive elements to it, but that's the main one, is it allows you to meet people you otherwise wouldn't have met. And like on here, it allows me to share with people I've never met by being able to talk about things online. And it's great in that way. However, I think a lot of us have figured out the pros to virtual existence at the moment don't outweigh the cons. And so in an ideal world, we'd have the virtual pros mixed with the real life connection pros. And unfortunately, that's not happening because in general, it's not happening because we're so disconnected from each other. And oftentimes people you meet in real life now that you might have actually been able to form a connection with 30 years ago, you don't form a connection with because people are like, well, I could just find my people online, or you feel more connected because you are online that you don't even realize that you're kind of in this deep slumber where you're not really connected with people that well because there's all this activity on the screen in front of you and it feels like that's life, but it's not. And so anyway, but I guess I feel like there's all this heart disconnection, and not just in the spiritual community. Like I said, it's outside of the spiritual community as well, but it's very prevalent within the spiritual community. But I'm not trying to talk about the spiritual community much in this video. So anyway, I want to talk right now, I guess, about kind of where I am emotionally when it comes to this pain that I've experienced. So I want to talk about this pain to this person because I feel that's going to solve the problem. And I think not only do I think it's likely to help me heal in this situation, but also it could actually make this person's life better for talking to him about what happened. But I feel this guilt, like, what if it doesn't? What if it ends up hurting him? And so I'm kind of like biting my tongue because I'm like, I can't tell him. I feel like I can't tell him. But I feel like it's so wrong to not say anything. And so that's like I said before, like this is part of why I'm doing these recordings is so that I can get more comfortable talking and emotionally expressing so I have a better idea of how to move forward in this situation. Because I don't feel like I can really move forward without talking to him about what happened. Which wouldn't make sense to a lot of people, especially because I'm being so vague, and I'm sorry that I'm being so vague. I just don't know what else to do because I don't want to overshare because I think that would be inappropriate. And anyway, so I don't want to overshare right now. But I'm dealing with a lot of pain over this situation. And it's made me think about pain in general and the way that we express our pain in this world. And I'm struggling because I feel like, on one hand, because in the video that I finished, other than I need to have it edited a little bit, and I need to add like a 5-minute intro to it, I basically finished the video last night, and I'm very happy because it's a long video, and I'm so glad that it's pretty much done. And I hope to have it up within the next few days or maybe the next week, which would be awesome. So hopefully sometime at the beginning of February 2025, that video will be up. And it's all about how, basically it's just another way of me talking about emotional suppression. And so anyway, or emotional suppression in the spiritual community. But anyway, so, yeah, I guess that's all I want to say on it because I want to say more on that video right now, but it's such a long video. I feel like if I start to talk about more detail about that video, that I'll end up getting stuck trying to explain like the nuts and bolts of that video, and I'm like, that's probably not what I need to be doing right now. So anyway, the point is, in that video, I talk about emotional suppression in the spiritual community. I talked at length about it. And so anyway, so I've been thinking a lot about this emotional suppression lately, and on one hand, dealing with the pain that I have over this situation that I haven't been able to talk about, the person I want to talk to about it the most, because of that, it's made me think about the way I relate with pain, emotional pain. And so I've been feeling like, I believe that we need to, I'll say this part because I think it's really important. I've said it in a video I've already posted on here, which is the video I have from like mid-January on the vilification of fear in the spiritual community. I talked about it there, and I also talked about in the video that I pretty much finished last night, but I haven't posted yet as of January 30th, 2025, because like I said, today's January 30th. And so anyway, so I've talked about it in multiple places, but at this point, I think I've only posted it one place. But anyway, so the heart, this is what I was trying to get to, and I started to lose my train of thought. So the heart, and I feel like I keep saying this in my videos, but I think it's such a beautiful image, and it really, I think it would help, personally, I think it would help people to see this, or to recognize this within themselves. And so I think it's something I probably need to talk about quite frequently in my videos, just kind of mention, because it just takes a few minutes for me to talk about it in my videos. Even though my videos are longer than a few minutes, this part of the videos only takes a few minutes, and I think it's really, really helpful. So I'm going to talk about basically how the heart is just like the heart in the physical body. The heart in the physical body pumps blood throughout the body. The heart in the etheric sense, or in the spiritual body within the soul, the heart pumps love. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about that. Okay, so the heart, sorry, I paused the video again, which is why I'm a little confused again. So the heart pumps love in that spiritual sense. And because it pumps love in the spiritual sense throughout the soul, and I believe in God, and so I believe that it actually pumps God's love throughout our souls. But I believe in God, and I'm trying to think of how to talk about this, because now I'm talking about God, and I love to talk about God, but I'm just like, I wasn't expecting to talk about God in this video, and so I kind of like threw myself for a loop. But anyway, so I believe that the love that we have in us and ourselves is love from God, because I think that God created our souls from himself, because I think we're all fractals of God. And I think that we, and that's why I've heard other spiritual people say, is that we're fractals of God. And it makes sense to me that we are. You could disagree, that's fine, but that's what makes sense to me. And I do believe in reincarnation. Not that it's really important for me to talk about it in this video, but I don't know, since I'm talking about God, and I don't know, I feel like it's helpful to talk about that too. I believe in reincarnation, but I believe that we go to heaven for a little while in between reincarnation, or a long while, I'm not really sure, but we go to heaven for at least a little bit between reincarnations, between incarnations. And so anyway, but I believe that the love that we have within ourselves is actually God's love being pumped through us, because we're all ultimately parts of God, but different expressions of God. Not the God in his entirety, but just parts of God, right? Without the all-knowing element that is God. Just obviously we're not all-knowing, but we're connected to that all-knowing God because we're part of God. But anyway, and so I believe God's love is pumped through. I got twisted with my words there. I believe that God's love is pumped through our souls by our heart space. And in a world of suffering, which this world has lots of suffering in it, in a world of suffering, but also with joy, because there's beauty in this world as well. In a world of suffering mixed with joy, our love gets both wounded by the suffering and healed and nurtured by the joy. But because it gets wounded, our heart needs to, because our heart pumps that love, it goes to really embody love more than any other part of our soul. And I believe that very strongly. And you could kind of view it almost as, and I said this in one of my other videos, that love is like the inner child. And it's the inner child of God in a way too, but it's our inner child is love. And love is pumped through our soul and nurtured by the heart space and embodied in so many ways by the heart space. Much like a mother and a father, when operating from a place of unconditional love, embody and take on, I'm not phrasing this right, but they take on they care for that child, and the child's best interest becomes the parent's best interest in the heart space. And that's kind of what the heart is that nurturer. And it really grows to embody love more than any other part of the soul. And so anyway, the heart space in that way, is our compass really in life, because it embodies love more than any other part of our soul, in my opinion. And I believe the mind can come second to that, where the mind can embody love second within our soul. But unfortunately, our mind in this society has been trained to oppress the heart, which is very unfortunate. But I just think that's where you see all this mental control. And anyway, it's just and you see it so much in the spiritual community. I think the spiritual community is using the mind to control the heart, and it really, really upsets me that the spiritual community is doing this, which is why, as much as I believe in many spiritual concepts, I really hesitate to call myself spiritual, because I'm so upset at what's happened in the spiritual community through this heart suppression. But anyway, so the heart embodies this love, and this love in a world of suffering can become wounded. And part of healing and nurturing that, or part of healing that love, is to nurture it. And to nurture it is to let it express itself. If you have someone that went through a tragedy, part of them moving forward is to talk about the tragedy, not just to put a smile on their face and say, I'm moving on. Obviously, that's not what you're supposed to do. Well, I feel like that's what a lot of spiritual people are doing, which is why I get so upset with the spiritual community. But anyway, I believe that we're supposed to be able to express this pain. But we also need to notice the joy and the beauty in our life as well. We don't want to be 100% negative, but we don't want to be 100% positive. Because chances are, most people on earth are not supposed to be one extreme or the other. You're somewhere in the middle, right? Some of you need to express 90% joy in your life and 10% sadness, and some of you need to express the reverse. Maybe your situation's so painful that you need to express 80 or 90% sadness and 10 or 20% joy. But you're probably not the extreme of 100% sadness or 100% joy. It's probably somewhere in the middle, chances are. So anyway, so that being said, I feel like it's very important for me to honor the sadness that I have, but I don't want to wallow in a state of victimhood where I'm super duper negative. And so I'm kind of struggling with that, where I'm realizing that I'm really having a hard time, or I'm struggling trying to allow myself to grieve what's happened. But part of why I can't grieve what's happened is because it's not past me yet, or I'm not past it yet. I feel like there's this part of me that still feels like at some point I'll be able to talk about what happened to this person. And because of that, I don't feel like I can fully move on. And I still have this hope that maybe I'll get to talk to him about it in this lifetime. And anyway, so on one hand, I don't know, I'm kind of stuck where and maybe that's where I'm supposed to be, is somewhere in the middle. It probably is, where on one hand I'm not totally like, this will never happen, but I'm also not like, this is going to work out perfectly. Like, I'm just kind of in the middle. And I realized that, like, to live in the heart space, I think I'm realizing that to live in the heart space really has to be, because we're not trained to our intuition and we're not trained to understand our heart, and because the heart speaks its own language, and it's a language that we don't really know very well. It's almost like, I mean, think of a language where you know like 10 words in that language. Yeah, you know a few words. Sometimes you know what it's saying, but in general, you don't know much of the context, right? And that's basically what our heart is for a lot of us. We know a few words, and that's about it. But to really understand the heart and the language of the heart, we have to let ourselves, one, recognize the value of what the heart has to tell us. We have to give silence and let the heart talk to us, but we also have to make the effort to understand where the heart's coming from. And because we're mental creatures, we're supposed to use our mind to try to understand what the heart's telling us. And then at some point along the way, we can, through emphasizing the heart and really giving voice to the heart and allowing the heart space to communicate with us and allowing ourselves to really listen and try to understand the heart, then we reach this state of harmony, I think, much more easily, where we're not using our mind to suppress the heart, but instead our heart and our mind are in flow with each other, which is how I think we're supposed to be, but that's not most of us in this world, because we're not taught to understand the heart. But anyway, so I'm really struggling with knowing how to, I guess I'm struggling with knowing, like, on one hand, oh, that's what I was going to say. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. I was going to say that because we're supposed to get to this place of flow, I think at first we're supposed to use our mind to try to understand what our heart's saying. But the more that we give our heart space to talk to us, the more that we learn the language of the heart. And then we know what the heart's telling us more and more and more, you know? Just like learning another language, you realize that you understand the language more and more and more through time and through effort and through patience and through devotion to learning that language. And I love learning languages. Well, kind of. I love listening to languages. Just side note, I think people who speak other languages, I love the voice like so much, and I love sound, and I'm very connected to like sound and melodies and music. And when someone speaks another language, I'm just like, ugh. Like, I love voices, and so when someone speaks another language and I don't yet know what that language is really saying, and I'm really just focusing on the sound, it's just like this really beautiful thing, and it makes me so happy, and I'm like, yeah, I just think it's wonderful. But anyway, so but yeah, like, you're trying to learn the language of the heart. And anyway, so I think I'm pretty much to the point where I'm ready to finish up this video. I might have a few more minutes left in it, but I think I'm getting close to closing out this video, which is always kind of nice, because I have this tendency, I'm realizing, with my longer videos to need to like come back to them, and then I don't finish them for a long time, or it takes like a month or whatever, because it's just exhausting, like I said, because I have stage fright. And so anyway, this being a longer video, probably 30 something, maybe 40 minutes, it's nice that I'm just like finishing it all in one afternoon. I don't know when I'm going to post it, but at least I'm like finished. I think I'm finishing recording it this afternoon, the same afternoon that I started it, because it's still January 30th. So anyway, that's an accomplishment, I guess. But anyway, so I think that, I didn't say a ton about the issues around the heart in this society in this video. However, I think I explained a decent amount on it, and I think I'm I feel like I said something that needed to be said about our heart's condition in this society, and the way that we really need to lean into the heart more. And actually, there is one more thing, maybe more than that, but at least one more thing I want to say in this video about this, and that I forgot to say, is, the spiritual community, I'm talking about the spiritual community again, anyway, but the spiritual community loves to say, get out of your mind and into your heart. And I don't think they realize what they're saying. Because I think they have this idea that the mind is the place of chatter and emotional confusion or emotional chaos. And then they think that the heart is this place of grounding and peace. And I'm like, no, the heart is not the place of peace without healing it first. You don't have a peaceful heart until you let it express itself with the pain that it has. And you don't have that heart of peace until it's been healed or is close to healed. And like I said, to heal the heart means to nurture it. And to nurture it means to let it express itself first and foremost regarding the pain that it's experienced in this world. And so anyway, I just think it's unfortunate that so many within the spiritual community will say, get out of your mind and into your heart. But they're not even getting into their heart, I think, a lot of the time. In fact, I think they're getting further away from their heart because they view the emotions that they have in their mind, which the emotions that you sense in your mind are oftentimes connected to the emotions you have in your heart. So yes, your mind can blow, like I think I said this earlier in this video, the mind can blow those emotions out of proportion sometimes, and often does, but those emotions are still oftentimes rooted in the heart space, including the negative emotions, including fear, including sadness, including a sense of doubt, including a sense of lack, including a sense of confusion, including anger. I'm trying to think what else, but anyway, emphasis on sadness and fear. Like those, I feel like fear is so vilified in the spiritual community, and so I really want to emphasize, like, fear needs to be honored. But anyway, so those emotions, as well as positive emotions like joy and, peace and all that, can be felt within the heart as well, and are oftentimes rooted in the heart. And so when spiritual people say, let's get out of the mind and into the heart, and then they go and throw their negative emotions out the window, I don't think they're getting in their heart that way. In fact, I think they're getting further away from their heart. And I think they're actually in that moment putting the heart in a cage and putting duct tape on its mouth. I really feel that. And so when spiritual people say, get in the heart and get out of the mind and get into the heart, what they really need to do is not pretend that they're getting into the heart by further disconnecting themselves from their heart. Instead, what they need to do is acknowledge that the heart and mind, as mental creatures, which we are mental creatures, are supposed to live in harmony and kind of in this state of fusion where they provide for each other. The mind provides security for the heart in its creative energy in this world, and the heart nurtures through processing and really feeling that love as it comes in from God and gets affected in this world through that wounding, as well as the healing and nurturing that takes place. And so you have to live in the state of harmony with your heart space between your heart and your mind. But I think you're supposed to lead by the heart, but we're mental creatures, so the mind also is supposed to play a part as well. And unfortunately, so much of the spiritual community, in my opinion, uses the mind, like I said, to suppress the heart. And so when they say that they're getting into the heart, oftentimes I don't think they are. I think they're actually using the mind to silence the negative emotions within the heart space, which oftentimes those negative emotions are wounded love, and they need to be catered to and nurtured and healed, not thrown off on the side of the road or out the window. So anyway, I think I don't know. I could say more, I guess, for a few more minutes, but I think I'm pretty much ready to finish up this video. I'm getting kind of tired. But thank you for listening, and yeah, I guess there's all this, like, I'm processing a lot of emotional pain, and talking about the heart. I think the fact that I've gone through this pain has really, the silver lining to it, and maybe this is God's purpose in it, the silver lining to this pain that I've experienced, that I don't have closure in yet, and I don't know that I will in this lifetime, but I hope I will. And I really hope that I get to talk to this person about this situation, but I just don't know if it's appropriate yet to do that. But the fact that I've experienced this pain has really helped me notice even more so, I think, the way that our heart is being almost shackled in this moment in our society. And it's quite ironic that the spiritual community, as much as they say we're all one and we're all created equal, and then they go and use the mind to suppress the heart space, which through suppressing the heart space, if you suppress your own heart and treat your own heart like a machine, you're going to learn to treat others that way too. And so you really have to value the heart and love the heart. And unfortunately, that's just not our society. And the spiritual community is just as much guilty in that as so many others, I think the spiritual community has become, sorry, I didn't phrase that right. I think the spiritual community has become the very machine that it claims to be escaping. So anyway, it's just the same machine under a different name in a lot of ways. The machine that uses the mind to suppress the heart. So anyway, but thank you for listening to this. And I do still love many elements of spirituality. I know I'm saying negative things about spirituality. Spirituality is not all bad. It's just I want the spiritual community to get it back. I twist my words around, I guess, when I get nervous. I want the spiritual community to get back into the heart space, and it's not really in the heart space nearly enough right now, in my opinion. So anyway, and I want people in general to get more in the heart space too. But anyway, so yeah, but thank you for listening, and have a great day or night.